Welcome to the Keyboard Exchange International showroom, where today we're going to have a little bit of what we call tech talk. And we're here with Tia Spears, and you'll hear her play some of our organs, but I thought it would be interesting if Grant and Tia would explain what goes into getting that sound you're hearing and you're enjoying so much.
Okay.
Now, if you're playing a lot of old 65-year-old organs, well, those compared to what Grant and Bill have done tend to sound a whole lot more mellow because capacitors have lost some of their capacitance, and tubes have gotten old, and other parts have just shown wear over decades. So when we get an organ in here, sometimes we'll take it all apart. Just like, if you were going to restore a Corvette, a Chevy Corvette, you take all the parts off right down to the bare frame. So and they call that a bare frame restoration. But in this particular example, if you can kind of look here, you can see all these pretty new capacitors. And this tone generator originally had wax coated or covered capacitors, and that happened all the way up until 1964 and a half before they started putting in what they call red capacitors. And red, even this one is reddish. But it's a mylar plastic that holds up far better than wax capacitors.
Okay.
So the interesting thing, and Grant, I'll turn this over here to you in a second, and Tia and I will go. I'll show Tia around the rest of the building. But this incidentally came with ceramic capacitors, which we don't really like to use. And I don't know that I've ever even seen ceramic capacitors on a tone generator. Is that the first time you've seen it?
I've seen one or two that have come in over the years.
Okay.
But yeah, it's not the recommended type of capacitor to use in this particular application. Although they do hold up very, very well. Ceramic capacitors are prone to microphony, which we discussed in another video just recently, which is basically anytime there's a vibration, the capacitor actually picks it up and delivers that as a little bit of electrical energy, and so you'll get like hum in the tone. And so if you have 30 ceramic capacitors on this tone generator that is whirring along with the 91 wheels inside that are spinning, you're going to end up with lots of hum that will be underneath everything you're playing. It might sound, the tones might sound fine, but there will be a lot of noise in it, and we didn't want to have that, so we decided to go ahead and redo this entire one. This came from a B2, actually, and so its original caps were probably pretty far gone when someone originally recapped this with the ceramics. But as I mentioned, we decided to change that.
And Tia, look at all the pretty graphs that Grant has done.
My favorite part.
Yeah, the guy, he's phenomenal. And we'll let him explain that. Why don't you and I go sit down and have a drink of water and relax?
That sounds like a plan.
Yeah, we can listen to him from over here. Okay. We'll sit at the bar and fellowship a little.
Well, as Jim was mentioning, we've gone ahead and done the full Monty on this one. You can see a lot of green wires here. These are filters. They're added filters that they started using in the mid-'60s to reduce some rumble and hum on a particular octave of the tone generator, and those weren't present on this B2 generator, so we added those. And then, as we said, we recapped with these red capacitors. But more than that, I can show you here, these are the output measurements of every tone in the generator as I took them with the ceramic caps that were on here when we got it. And you see here, this is the first octave of pedal frequencies. That's quite loud, but that's because human hearing doesn't pick that up so loud. So they make those a lot louder. You don't notice it so much, but they are electrically much louder. And then these are most of your lower notes, and then when you get to, I think it's 48, you get into where all the capacitors are. In these notes, there aren't any filters, there aren't any capacitors, there's nothing to go wrong. So these pretty much stay the same. But these filters we added with the green wires, those are actually right in this range. And you can see beforehand, they looked fine, but there is a certain growl or rumble present on a lot of those notes in these original generators, and so those filters remedy that. But up here, you can see all these outputs are quite inconsistent. And this is typical of using a shotgun approach. And a shotgun approach means you just hit everything with buckshot and see what you can get. So in this case, somebody replaced all these capacitors through here with the 0.1 microfarad capacitor, which is what it is rated for. However, at the factory, they matched each of these capacitors to an inductor that is underneath each of these capacitors. You can't really see it, but there's a coil underneath each of these. And each of these coils was hand wound, and they're not exactly the same. And they even wound them slightly differently to accompany each of the different notes. And then they matched capacitors through a trial and error it took a long time to get the exact loudest amount of signal from each tone. And so when you don't match, if you recap and you don't match them, you get this kind of uneven response from all these tones. And I'll even show you, this is a graph of what it typically looks like with wax capacitors that are 50 years old. These are your outputs. And so I was saying all of this stuff is without capacitors, and then this is with the capacitors, and that's what happens to them over, decades. But a recap without matching anything results in this, which is clearly better. But these dips, especially this darkens the tone of the entire generator. And the fact that you have these ones that stick out when you're playing percussion, these are all really high frequencies. These are only harmonics of the tones. So when you play percussion, these things that are sticking up here, they jump out at you and go burp, burp. And as you're playing with percussion on, it'll probably bother you. So we don't like to see that. So what we've done here is we matched them all, which is, I could show you this graph. This is after replacing all the caps with these red ones. This is the area where the filters were added, and you can see some of them actually get lower. Then we do a final step where we move some of the magnets that the tone is generated with to make them slightly closer to the tone wheels to bring that level up and smooth everything out to what you see here. And there should be just a gentle rise and a little bit of fall at the very top. We've got a few sticking out there that I didn't take care of. These are small amounts of difference that you really can't hear, but the fewer magnets we move, the better, because they are quite delicate. You run the risk of doing damage if you push it in too far and you hit the spinning wheel and stuff like that. So we try to be judicious about that and get the nicest, most even curve we can from the entire thing, and that will give us a lot more tone. It makes the organ a bit brighter overall, but it's quite well balanced if you've got a little bit of a curve there. So that's basically what we get into with the tone generators in these extreme cases. As I said, we don't do this with every tone generator. We evaluate them one at a time. And a lot of the wax cap generators actually sound quite good. They're more on the mellow side, as Jim was mentioning. But for some people, that's exactly the sound they're looking for. So we don't do this to all the generators, only ones where we find there's something pretty drastic going on with the capacitors. Either there's damage, or like in this case, there were ceramic capacitors in there in the first place. That was a recap. But I hope that was informative and you guys understood everything I was talking about. From all of us here at Keyboard Exchange, we hope you have a wonderful day, and like this video and subscribe if you like what you're seeing here. And if you have any comments or questions, please leave them in the comment section below. Have a great day.
Thanks for watching our video, and thank you also for helping keep the Hammond Tone Wheel B3 organ alive. We couldn't do all this work that we do here without you. And it would also help greatly if you could subscribe, like, ask for notifications for when we have new videos. That would be a big help for us. So we thank you once again. I'm signing off for now, but we will be back.